You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs from my generation. They'll take the fall, the saints, the confirmation. Yeah, it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Welcome back to Reliving the War, and welcome to the 30th of March 1998, the night after WrestleMania XIV. Raw's live in Albany, New York, while Nitro's in Chicago, Illinois. You're gonna notice a change this week on the WWF side, while WCW tried to counter Raw's war with a big boot and a leg drop, brother. This is another landmark week of the Monday Night War, and I know I say that often, but that just shows us how game-changing this time period really was. We are watching the future of pro wrestling getting shaped every week, folks. Alright, enough hype. Let's check out Nitro's first 60 minutes and their immediate reply to WrestleMania XIV. The commentators talk about the escalating problems in the NWO at the beginning of Nitro, and things are now getting pretty bad between Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan. The Hulkster just can't keep his boys in check, it seems. On Thunder, Kevin Nash wanted to know why Sean Waltman didn't have a job anymore, and Hogan said this.
As far as your little teeny buddy Six-Pack goes, it's not my fault that he can't cut the mustard and run with the rest of the NWO.
So itty bitty Sean Waltman can't cut the mustard and he couldn't hang with the NWO. Nash also wanted to know why Scott Hall wasn't on TV, and Hogan says he has no idea where Scott is. In reality, Scott was sent back to rehab following the spring break episode of Nitro. We'll come back to this NWO stuff very soon. The opening bout on Nitro saw High Voltage take on Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos, but the pretty good matchup was interrupted by the Giant. The big man chokeslammed everyone in sight before grabbing a microphone and sending a message to his Spring Stampede tag team partner. He says, "Piper, you wanted mean, you've got mean." So we've got a big mean stinky Giant on the loose, guys. Watch out. Nitro takes a break and then Jan comes back out along with Roddy Piper to cut a promo with Mean Gene Okerlund. Piper says he got himself a mean giant now that dances with polar bears and eats villagers. Okay. Piper says there won't be any bots in WCW until April 19th, but I'm pretty sure I saw one or two last week. Piper then makes the same joke as last week in regards to NWO guys being ex-lovers, but this time it's Hogan and Nash. So to throw a spanner in the works, Piper says tonight Sting and Lex Luger will face Nash and a partner of Nash's choice, but it can't be Hulk Hogan. Piper then tries and fails to spit out his gum. He's all out of bubblegum, guys. And the Hot Rod then talks about Hogan's new lover, the guy who hasn't been named yet, but Piper took a note of a few of his older names. Brutus Beefcake, the Zodiac, and the Boogeyman. No, that's Disco Inferno, mate, but Piper says his real name is E. Harrison Leslie. Eddie Leslie can watch his lover boy Hulk Hogan get thrashed tonight because Roddy Piper books himself in a main event match against Hollywood Hogan on this very episode of Nitro. Saturn comes out for a match against Fit Finlay. Raven stole the US Championship belt, but he'll get a chance to win it for real at Spring Stampede. Saturn defeated Finlay here in another decent match. The Rings of Saturn force Finlay to tap out. Time for the mandatory Hulk Hogan promo, and this time he's got the NWO with him. There's no Nash, Hall, Six or Savage though, and that faction doesn't look half as appealing now, does it? Hogan accepts Piper's challenge and he tells him to come down to the ring wearing his little sissy skirt too. Hulk then wants the NWO Booty Man to stand beside him, and Hogan says this bozo has been with him since day one. He's the leader of all people who worship Hulk Hogan. I'm deadly fucking serious, by the way, he actually said that. It's like he's the first guy in line to shove a tongue up Hogan's hoop. Hogan officially names Ed Leslie the disciple here, and I don't care what Hogan says, he's still the NWO Booty Man. And Hulk says he's the number one at worshipping the ground Hollywood walks on, so his gimmick is pretty much a Hulk Hogan fanboy. NWO Booty Man's job is to look after Hogan's best interests, and Piper better not forget it. In terms of Kevin Nash, Hogan says he talked to the boys in the back, and everyone in the NWO doesn't trust Big Sexy apparently. Big Sexy then makes his way down to the ring, and Hogan says Nash isn't allowed to use any NWO members tonight in his tag team match. Kev tells Hogan to take heed to what Macho Man said. There may be a few guys standing behind Hogan right now who want to shove a knife in Hollywood's back, but Hogan shouldn't worry about Nash because Big Sexy will shoot Hogan right between the eyes. Hogan says these issues can be worked out after Spring Stampede, but tonight Nash doesn't have a partner. Kev says that he's already found himself a partner actually, and Hulk should spend the rest of the night trying to work out who it is.
Brother!
Chris Jericho comes to the ring with what looks like a ton of printer paper, and he dedicates his next match against Marty Jannetty to the memory of Dean Malenko. Dean let a lot of people down when he quit WCW. Dean's father wasn't a quitter like the Iceman, so Jericho's kissing Dean Malenko and his career goodbye because...
Just like the song says, in a mbop, it's gone. Thank you!
Jericho won this match in around 2 minutes after countering a rocker dropper and locking in the Lion Tamer. And then Jericho went back to the printer paper and he grabbed a microphone. Jericho says that Dean Malenko claims to be the man of 1,000 holds, but Dean only knows around 60 holds. Chris Jericho knows 1,004 and he wrote them all down. Hold number 1, arm drag. Hold 2, arm bar. Hold 3, the moss-covered 3-handled family gradunzel. Hold 4, arm bar. It's absolutely brilliant. The magic of this promo is the fact that Nitro takes a commercial break, and when we come back, Jericho's still listing out his holds. He's at hold number 712, arm bar, and the crowd are going absolutely nuts. Jericho revealed in his first book that he ripped apart Chicago sports teams during the break, and this helped to get the crowd fired up when Nitro came back on the air. Prince Ike comes out for his match, Jericho finally leaves, and Chris screams for Nick Patrick to give him back his holds as he gets out of the ring. This was awesome, by the way, a very memorable promo from Chris Jericho. Prince Ike wrestles, damn it, Glacier. For a split second I wasn't sure who to cheer for here, but then I slapped myself in the face and I bought a Prince Ike t-shirt. Bad guy and all-around villainous bastard Glacier ended up jumping straight into a Northern Light suplex and the Prince got the win. In all seriousness, I really don't know what WCW saw in this guy and why he was given so many wins on Monday nights. Vince McMahon and Steve Austin kick off Raw's War. WCW strategically counter with Jam Master El Dandy versus Juventud Guerrera. Vince McMahon's carrying a new WWF Championship belt. This one would become known to fans as the Big Eagle belt or the Attitude Era belt. You can see the original had a blue strap and the old WWF logo, and only 2 guys would actually hold this version of the belt. Anyway, the commentators announce a new Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie steel cage match tonight before Vince speaks, and also there's been rumoured dissension within D-Generation X that we're also going to hear more about. After having some microphone issues, Vince says he's pleased to present to fans the new WWF champion, the man who won the title last night at WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin comes down to the ring carrying the Winged Eagle. The belt then gets thrown to the canvas as Stone Cold takes his new championship belt, and the fans are going absolutely crazy tonight for the new champ. Vince backtracks on what he said prior to WrestleMania. He says he's proud of Austin becoming the new champion and the crowd boos. Vince says, together with Stone Cold's charisma and Vince's vision, Stone Cold could become the greatest WWF champion of all time. Austin says he knows Vince hates him. It's okay because Austin hates Vince right back. And there won't be no partnership between Austin and McMahon. Stone Cold can't be molded by Vince McMahon. Vince says he doesn't hate Stone Cold. McMahon is incapable of hate. As a matter of fact, Vince says Austin's a great human being, a swell guy, and Vince loves Stone Cold. Austin can't believe what McMahon just said, and he wants Vince to repeat it. McMahon says it's a figure of speech and he doesn't actually love Steve Austin, but Stone Cold pushes it and he wants McMahon to say it again. Vince ends up saying it and Austin laughs at his boss. Austin says he loves Vince too. And now that that's out of the way, Stone Cold's going to continue raising hell and nobody's going to tell him what to do, and that's the bottom line. Vince says they can do this the easy way or the hard way. The easy way is to be flexible and learn to adapt. The hard way is being forced into doing doing it the easy way. Austin wants 10 seconds to think about this important decision. He takes a moment and he gives his answer by stunning Vince McMahon once again in the middle of the ring. Stone Cold asks fans if they want him to continue doing things the hard way, and the crowd give Austin a oh hell yeah. Awesome work here, and we've got more to come. It's a bit rough going from this to El Dandy versus Juventud Guerrera, but that's the nature of the beast, man. Remember when the NWO debuted and we had to slog it out over on Raw? Yeah, I'm getting the same feeling right now. Still though, who am I to doubt El Dandy? Guerrera gets kicked in the face, but he answers with a Kurrgan Rana and a head scissors. Dandy's in perfect position for a dive from Guerrera, but the jammy bastard's like, absolutely not, my friend, and he gets back in the ring. Hoovy gets clotheslined and El Dandy slams Guerrera on the mat while pulling his hair. Guerrera then gets his Hoovy juice dispenser smashed on the top rope, and El Dandy's being absolutely relentless here. Guerrera tries to steal it with a pin attempt, and he gets paid in kindly with a smack to the face. Even after all this abuse, Guerrera manages to duck a clothesline and he ends it with a Hoovy driver. El Dandy may be hurt, but he'll live to fight another day. Vince McMahon seen backstage and he doesn't look too good. He's complaining about his neck while Jerry Briscoe fixes his shirt and tie. Is Vince McMahon going to retaliate tonight on Raw? Yes he is. Kaz Hayashi versus Chavo Guerrero takes place next on Nitro. On Raw we have LOD versus Jose and Jesus of Los Boricuas and Kurrgan versus Chainz. I've lumped these two Raw matches together because they're both squash matches. We don't get any information on how or why the LOD got back together. All we know is they're here to kick ass and Sonny's here because, well, reasons. Jim Ross says the LOD will get their tag team title shot at the next WWF pay-per-view Unforgiven as Animal hits a power slam. Sure would be funny if Hawk and Animal lost that match, seeing as their issues stemmed from failed efforts to win those championship belts. Hawk hits Jesus with a jumping shoulder tackle, we see the Doomsday device, and it's over in under a minute, though Sonny's gonna help the boys work on that. She gets lifted on Hawk and Animal's shoulders and she says this is what happens when you mix Twisted Steel and sex appeal. Sonny then formally announces this evolution of the Road Warriors as LOD 2000. Before the next match, Kevin Kelly announces that Vince McMahon just called the cops and he wants Stone Cold arrested tonight on Raw. So it turns out old Mr. McMahon isn't very proud of Stone Cold after all. After a break, Kelly's in locker room B with the job guys, and rumour has it that the DOA smartened Austin up about the cops getting called, and Austin apparently said Vince doesn't have the balls to get him arrested. We'll come back to this in a moment. We go back to the ring for Kurrgan versus Biker Michael Liker, and it's a shame the DOA didn't smarten up their own teammate because Kurrgan completely wrecks a dirty old asshole right here on Raw's War. During the match, we go to split screen where Vince McMahon waits for the boys in blue to show up. Back in the ring, Kurrgan hits Chainz with a big boot before applying the paralyzer. And it looks like Chainz is gonna spend the night in Kurrgan's hotel room, seeing as he gets escorted back up the ramp by the big man. The cops then arrive and Vince McMahon shows them where Stone Cold's hanging out. The new WWF champion has some serious problems 24 hours after winning the championship. On Nitro, yes guys, we have to check Nitro. On Nitro, Chavo's wearing the famous updated Eddie Guerrero's My Favorite Wrestler t-shirt, and the WWE should really still be selling these today. They'd make a fortune. Uncle Eddie was able to defeat Kaz Hayashi last week, and honestly, I don't care if Chavo wins this one. I care if Chavo pulls off 3 chinlocks again so we can crown Chavito the new chinlock master of Monday nights. When he pulled off the first one, I got excited. When he pulled off the second one, I jumped from my seat. And that's exactly where I stayed because Chavo ends it with a corner tornado DDT. Still though, I'm hopeful that Chavo can become the new chinlock king because he's got that instinct where he thinks about a chinlock before anything else. And that's the qualities we look for in our professional wrestlers. Jeff Jarrett versus Aguila on Raw, Raven versus Buff Bagwell on Nitro. Raven grabs a microphone and he says there's been some complaints coming in regarding his promos, as in no one has a fucking clue what Raven's talking about on a week by week basis. So tonight this US title thief's gonna make things simple for us window lickers with limited intelligence. DDP falls into that category too. Raven's daddy didn't like him too much and it was DDP who picked Raven up after his first stint in rehab. In return, Raven lent DDP a shoulder to cry on when WCW said Dallas would never be a star 4 years ago. But what about Raven? Raven spent 3 years in Barbed Wire City getting put through hell and DDP had the ability to put in a good word for Raven with WCW, but Page didn't do it. DDP was selfish and he turned his back on Raven. Raven would feel DDP's pain, and now DDP has to feel Raven's pain. Quote the Raven, the US champion, nevermore. Thank you very much, Raven. Bit of a weird matchup this. Buff Bagwell gets in the ring, he points and laughs at Raven, saying it's a good thing Raven's wearing a shirt right now, and we get the usual hip toss and pose from Bagwell. Raven then sends Buff into the corner, Buff gets a boot up and Raven takes a clothesline, and Raven decides he's gonna bail afterwards. DDP then shows up to get his US title back, but Raven escapes through the audience, and that's how the match ends. Bagwell wins via countout. Bagwell says Raven was afraid of Buff Daddy as Page makes his way to the commentary table, and Dallas wants to straighten a few things out. DDP says he and Raven did help each other in the past, but Raven has a selective memory. Page reveals that Raven was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, he went to the best schools and he lived in a big mansion. Raven didn't really have it all that bad. Page, on the other hand, really struggled when growing up. His divorced mom had 3 kids by the age of 20. Dallas ended up growing up with his old man and he can't remember the first 8 years of his life, but he's fine with that. DDP learned how to turn negatives into positives while Raven does it the other way around. Raven doesn't know what hardships are. A hardship's working a 9-to-5 job that you absolutely hate, then working your next job afterwards to make ends meet. A hardship's a young mother having to restructure her life due to the father walking out. Raven's hardships are nothing but crap, and Raven needs to learn the difference between real problems and Raven's problems. Over on Raw, Tennessee Lee says he single-handedly defeated the giant robot monster last week because Steve Blackman got afraid and he ran to Mommy Blackman when things got tough. So we should now address Lee as Tennessee motherfucking Lee, and we should bow down to his greatness. Double J comes out on his horsey again, and just like at WrestleMania, Aguila doesn't get his entrance aired. Double J takes Aguila down with a short arm clothesline as Tennessee Lee takes a seat on commentary. It's all Double J here with Aguila bumping around the ring for Jarrett, and look at this. Aguila goes for his springboard corkscrew arm drag, and that damn Jeff Jarrett won't take the bump. Aguila has to clothesline him instead. Probably a communication problem here, but still. It's kinda funny when Aguila was slamming his head on the canvas for Double J seconds earlier. Jeff even rolls the wrong way when Aguila comes off the top rope. Aguila still makes contact and Double J jumps up while Aguila has to sell the move. Absolute horsey shit, ladies and gentlemen. Double J says he has a surprise for everyone next week on Raw, so we've all got that to look forward to. Jarrett locks in the figure 4, Aguila taps out, and I was just about to complain about this match, but then... It's not that Steve motherfucking Blackman doesn't like Double J, he just really hates country music, and that's why he must end Jarrett's life at all costs. Country music's like Blackman's kryptonite. Jarrett takes the motherfucker kick, and it's time for Lee to get slapped around because Tennessee Lee told a lot of porky pies. It was actually he who shit his pants and ran away from the giant robot monster, but Steve doesn't get a chance to attack because that no good Double J jumps him from behind and Steve falls out of the ring. Steve gets right back up like the absolute machine he is, but Double J and T. Lee run away, and Blackman now has a mission. In order to end country music, he has to end Jeff Jarrett, and he has to get some payback on that dastardly Tennessee Lee too.
Disco fever, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Vince McMahon cuts a promo next on Raw. On Nitro, the Disco Inferno battles Smackhead Kidman. Old Billy Bob Kidman's the kind of wrestler Disco can get a victory over on Monday Nitro. Disco gets his ass kicked at the opening bell, but he comes back quite quickly by making Kidman get even more high by launching him in the air, and Billy then takes a clothesline. He's bumping like crazy already for Disco. Kidman continues to make his opponent look good by taking a hip toss from the ring to the outside. Disco goes out and he does a little damage, but then Kidman comes back with a vaulting head scissors followed by a corner tornado bulldog. Kidman then pulls off a vaulting leg drop on the Inferno. Disco takes a clothesline. Kidman performs a dropkick after kicking out of a sunset flip. and Disco then gets set in position after a sidewalk slam. Kidman goes to the top rope, but his frog splash misses, allowing Disco to hit an inverted atomic drop followed by a running forearm. He then misses a middle rope elbow drop, and Kidman capitalizes with a sit-down spine buster. Still though, Disco fights back and he ends it with what Mike Tenay calls his new finishing move, a pile driver. I fucking bet he was told to stop using the chartbuster because the NWO Booty Man was using it. The classic "I've never seen Disco look so good" line comes from Bobby Heenan, and Tenay keeps the memes coming when he says Disco has a new level of concentration from bell to bell. They say this every single time he wrestles a heel, and then the following week he's back to wrestling baby faces. On Raw, Vince watches as the cops take Stone Cold away from the arena. Austin tries to charge into the chairman, but the cops pull him away and Austin gets put in a police car. McMahon looks quite pleased with how things turned out here. Vince then goes to the ring and he tells fans to show him a little respect because he wants to give everyone an explanation. He says he didn't want to do this, and a 24-hour cooling off period will probably benefit Stone Cold due to his current state of mind. But Steve Austin selected his choice in regards to doing things the easy way or the hard way, and damn it, Vincent Kennedy McMahon selected his choice too. The fans boo McMahon because obviously he's not making very popular decisions, but we know Stone Cold won't take this lightly. We'll have to wait and see how the rattlesnake strikes back. We then cut over to Triple H in China. Hunter looks pretty angry, and he says he's gonna drop the hammer in the war zone. Tonight, the WWF as we know it is gonna come to an X-rated end. The Rock and Farouk take on Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock. On Nitro, Curt Hennig battles Jim Neidhart. So we've got a double motherfuck tonight on WWF Raw, guys. Guess who wins this episode of Reliving the War? The Nation get interviewed backstage, and The Rock has a new IC belt. It's oval shaped, it's got a purple strap, and I'm sorry guys, I don't like it. This belt has its fans, but I really like the previous IC belt, and I still think the previous version was the best Intercontinental Championship the company had in circulation. But yeah, it's a good night for belt fans tonight. Some interesting choices. Both the new Big Eagle and this IC belt were designed by Joe Marshall, also known as J-Mar. And if you want to find out more and learn why the designs were changed, I'd recommend checking out Hazard F5's channel on YouTube. Trust me, you'll learn a lot. The Rock says he can hardly walk after Ken Shamrock tried to end his career at WrestleMania, but he's still standing here tonight on Raw, and he plans on laying the smackdown on Kenny Boy in this upcoming tag team match. As for Farouk, well, Farouk made The Rock open his eyes, and The Rock appreciates it. Farouk's the reason why Rock joined the Nation in the first place, and Farouk's the reason why The Rock's still IC champion. And The Rock promises the Nation's leader that the faction's gonna be the strongest it's ever been after tonight. The competitors make their way to the ring. Steve Blackman looks as badass as ever. Rock wants to start the match off with Ken Shamrock, so Farouk tags out, and then The Rock changes his mind and he tags Farouk back in. Farouk's annoyed, but that doesn't stop him from hitting Kenny Boy with a power slam. Shamrock fights back and he floors Farouk with a roundhouse kick before tagging in Stephen Blackman. Farouk's done his homework though and he dodges a motherfucker kick, leading to Steve taking a suplex. Farouk fucked around and found out though because he misses an elbow drop and he takes a spinning back kick before Steve tags out. Shamrock hits Farouk with a hard clothesline. Shamrock takes a shot at Rocky 2 for good measure. Farouk then takes a trip to Dropkick City when both Kenny Boy and Stevie Boy bring the pain to the Nation's leader, and Farouk somehow manages to hit Shamrock with a spine buster before looking to The Rock for a tag. Rock, however, doesn't want to tag in. As a matter of fact, he doesn't want to wrestle at all, so he walks away from the ring after Farouk fails to reach up high to tag in the IC champion. Rock heads to the back, Farouk takes a belly to belly, Lethal and Dangerous win the match, and The Rock doesn't need Steve Blackman to give him a big motherfucking problem because Farouk's going to hand one to The Rock right after the match. Farouk says Rock likes to wear expensive clothes and jewelry, so he should come to the ring so he can wear an ass whooping courtesy of the Nation's leader. The Rock comes to the ring, he gets in Farouk's face, Farouk takes Rocky down and the two have a fight. The Nation and officials break things up. Rock goes to head back up the ramp. Farouk tells him to get back and continue the fight, but then Kama, D'Lo and Mark Henry attack Farouk. The Rock makes his way back to the ring very slowly as fans begin to realize what just happened. Farouk takes a rock bottom, and Rock tells Farouk never to think he was the leader of the Rock because from this point on, the Rock is the ruler of the Nation of Domination. Farouk takes a kick from Rock as a parting gift, and there you have it. Farouk has been overthrown, and the Rock is now in charge of the nation. Does this mean Farouk turns babyface? Can Farouk turn babyface, saying he's been a heel since arriving in WWF? I'm sure we'll find out more next week. Curt Hennig versus Jim Neidhart, everyone. It looks like Jimbo had a party in the back. Hennig stops Anvil from getting in the ring, so Jim brings Curt to the outside and Hennig gets thrown into the guardrail. Back in the ring, Jim takes the driver's seat and he points up the ravishing Rick Rude, who's currently sitting at the commentary desk, and he shouts, "You Rude." Hennig's in full sale mode when he gets whipped into the corner. Jim again points at the commentary table and he shouts, "You Rude."
You rude!
We see a big body slam from the Anvil, and yeah, he does it again.
From you rude!
Sorry guys, there's a 3-strike rule here on Reliving the War, so boom.
Jim Neidhart pointing at the commentary desk and shouting,
You rude!
Rick Rude notices that Jim was actually talking about him and not Tony Schiavone, so he rushes to the ring to beat the Anvil's shit in. Jim's able to apply a bear hug, but that gets turned around quickly, and Jim then gets handcuffed to the ropes just like Davey last week. Davey runs to the ring like a gorilla, and he's wearing his pajamas for some reason. Brian Adams follows, and Davey gets taken out with a pile driver. The crack then completely kicks in, and Jim Neidhart has no idea where he is, nor who he is for that matter, so the hitman Bret Hart comes down to clean up this mess. Bret wipes out everybody, and joking aside, the crowd's going crazy for his excellency. The NWO guys get out of the ring after getting completely wrecked, and Bret grabs a mic. He says the exact same thing he said last week, more or less. No more injustice, nobody knows what it's like to get screwed over like Bret Hart does, and the NWO is getting dismantled brick by brick until the hitman gets the Hulk Hogan. Great, but you've been saying this for a while, Bret, and you're still fighting Curt Hennig and Brian Adams. Triple H cuts a promo next on Raw. On Nitro, we've got a Booker T versus Chris Benoit rematch. Triple H says a lot can happen in 24 hours. Hunter says he asked Shawn 1,000 times if Mike's locked in. Is he really part of DX? Is it all sewn up? And Shawn told Hunter it was fine and Hunter should let HBK make the decisions. Well, that wasn't the case, of course, and Hunter says Shawn dropped the ball. Triple H picked the ball up and now it's in Hunter's court. Triple H is going to take care of the worries and problems and Hunter will now make all the decisions. This is the genesis of D-Generation X, and tonight Hunter's gonna form a DX army. An army that will take care of business that should have been taken care of right from the start.
The first thing you do is you look to your blood. You look to your buddies. You look to your friends. You look to the clique.
Degenerate into something full. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a break, boy. Yeah, that's a freak, little man.
6 from the NWO is now part of D-Generation X. The last time Sean Waltman was on Raw was back in early 1996, but the kid's back and he's gonna stand beside Triple H. This was big, seeing as Six was one of WCW's best in-ring competitors when he got the opportunity to perform. He'd already fought for both sides in this Monday Night War, and just the fact that an NWO guy had joined D-Generation X created a lot of buzz. He would become known as X-Pac in WWF, but he does not get a name during this promo. Triple H says Waltman has a lot to say after being an indentured servant for 2 years, and he hands the mic to Shawn. Waltman tells the audience to make a little noise, and remember what Hogan said about Six on Thunder? Well, keep that in mind here.
I heard Hulk Hogan come out on television saying I couldn't cut the mustard. Well, Hulk Hogan, you suck, pal. So I don't think you have any room to talk about anybody cutting any kind of mustard. You better not stop short, or Eric Bischoff will go so far up your ass, he'll know what you had for breakfast. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would be standing right here with us if they weren't being held hostage hostage by World Championship Wrestling, and that's a fact, Eric Bischoff. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. So the way I see it right now, this is a new beginning for D-Generation X, and it starts tonight.
Booker T and Chris Benoit had a great time limit draw last week, and I said I didn't want to cover matches in depth that we have already looked over, so I'm gonna breeze over this one, but trust me guys, we get to see more Booker vs Benoit matches, including pay-per-view bouts. A good intense lockup started this one off, and Booker had to spin on the mat to get away from Benoit. This pin attempt didn't look too hot, as you can see, and just as Benoit started laying the chops in, Tony Schiavone announces a Curt Hennig vs British Bulldog match for Spring Stampede. Booker pulls off a spine buster, and I'm gonna call this out because he's been doing this for months now. Tony Schiavone calls this a sidewalk slam every time Booker pulls it off, and I get moves wrong all the time, but I'm not getting paid by Turner every week to fuck up, so Tony, get it together, man. Benoit pulls off a German suplex and a snap suplex as the crowd continue to react really well to everything these two do in the ring. Booker tries to come back with a double axe handle, but he runs right into a drop toe hold. Booker gets stretched out a little on the mat, he takes a back suplex, and I just enjoy how much these guys enjoy beating the hell out of each other. Benoit pulls off his rolling German suplexes, but he only manages two before Booker breaks free. The two then collide into each other with a ton of velocity. Booker goes upstairs to end it, but Benoit tries and fails to stop Booker from jumping from the top rope. Booker misses his aerial attack though, Benoit applies a crossface, and Booker T makes it to the ropes. Just like last week, the two get to their feet and the bell rings. The time limit has expired. Patrick tries to break it up and he takes a Curt Hennig bump even though he was just gently pushed away. I mean, look at that. But eventually he does stop the two men from fighting, and again Benoit isn't happy about the outcome. Another good match here, and there has to be a way for these two to settle this. Removing the time limit would make sense, I know, but WCW come up with something even better, to their credit. Both shows have used up a lot of time already, so the remainder of both Raw and Nitro moves along really fast, though we still have quite a few matches to get through. On Nitro, we've got Ultimo Dragon vs Psychosis. On Raw, Mark Mero takes on Taka Michinoku. Before the Raw match, a new character gets revealed to home audiences, Val Venus. Val stars in action-packed movies that get released straight to home video, and he likes to watch himself act in these movies while pointing out how good he is. His latest movie's called Live Hard, and Venus says he's a better actor than Bruce Willis. I need to look this movie up. And he then says the female fans will squeal in delight when he penetrates the WWF. Val Venus is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your umbrella. The competitors make their way to the ring and Luna interrupts the festivities. She says she wants a rematch against Sable, and Sable says she can have any type of match she wants and at any time. Luna says she wants an evening gown match. At Unforgiven, the winner of the evening gown match will be the one with the most clothes left on. Luna says she's going to embarrass Sable by stripping her down at the show, and the crowd lose their minds while calling their pay-per-view providers. Sable accepts and Mero isn't happy. Mero's also not happy that Sable's being a narc, and she's telling the referee when Mero cheats. So Mero confronts his wife and Sable remains on the apron, giving Mark a great opportunity to low blow Taka when the ref wasn't looking, and Michinoku then takes a TKO. Mark Mero wins via pinfall, Sable checks on Taka, Mero tells Sable to get to the back, and then three random guys hit the ring and they destroy Taka Michinoku. The commentators have no idea who this is, and the best thing Jim Ross can say is they look oriental, but their offense is pretty impactful, and it appears that Taka may have met some of his enemies from the past. The guys run away after the attack through the audience, and Raw then takes a commercial break. Fans only got 2 minutes of action when Ultimo Dragon met Psychosis in the ring on Monday Nitro. Remember last week I pointed out that Lodi took a lot of impact on his shoulder during a Psychosis corkscrew moonsault? Yeah, well, he broke his ankle on that spot. Yeah, I know, I thought his shoulder took the worst of that bump. So a big loss to Nitro, guys. Lodi's out. Psychosis performs a clothesline. Dragon replies with a lion salt. Psychosis hits the turnbuckles hard after a failed charge attack, but he recovers with a spinning wheel kick and Dragon goes to the outside. Psychosis pulls off a dive from the top rope, and then the Flock attacks Psychosis, getting a little payback for their fallen homie. Dragon helps Psychosis fight off these unwashed cretins as the referee throws the match out. An absolute waste of time here on TNT. We have got Goldberg vs Ray Traylor next on Nitro, so that one's also going to be over before you know it. On Raw, the New Midnights take on the Headbangers. Jim Cornette has a surprise guest, NWA World Heavyweight Champion Dan the Beast Severn. Severn was on Raw previously, but for those who don't know, Dan Severn is like Freddie Mercury in his true final form. A legit tough badass, the first world-class wrestler to compete in the UFC, and UFC's one and only Triple Crown champion. The guy held UFC and NWA championships at the same time. Basically, if Dan Severn takes your wife and becomes the stepfather to your kids, you say, "Thank you, Mr. Severn." The NWA Tag Team titles are on the line here, and Cornette puts over Dan Severn as the Headbangers take the early lead. Severn looks on, and clearly he only has one thing on his mind. One burning question. Why the fuck are these guys called Bombastic and Bodacious? Holly gets a blind tag and Thrasher takes a neck breaker. A back elbow follows, Bodacious Bart comes back in, and we see a few left hands from the southpaw. The New Midnights then show off some teamwork with a sidewalk slam and elbow drop combination, but they're also failing to get the crowd excited. I'm not sure if that was the point. The Bombastic Bastard goes upstairs, but Thrasher gets a boot up. Marsh gets a spicy hot tag and the Midnights get taken out. He performs a power slam on Holly, but Bart's quick to break up the following pin. All four men get in the ring and the referee gets distracted when getting Thrasher out of the ring, allowing the Midnights to perform a rocket launcher. The Midnight Express win the NWA Tag Team titles. Jim Cornette says to Jim Ross he's going to give us an example of Super Saiyan Freddie Mercury's true abilities. So the Beast gets in the ring, he delivers a belly-to-belly suplex, a double underhook suplex, and he does a bit of stretching before Cornette says that's enough. So all these perceived tough guys in the World Wrestling Federation better watch out. Dan Severn is on the loose. Steve Austin then calls in from jail and he says he's using his one and only phone call to let Vince McMahon know his ass belongs to Stone Cold. Next week on Raw's War, McMahon's going to find out how pissed off Austin is. It's not going to be a fun night for Vince, and if he has to, Stone Cold will visit McMahon's house like he done to another guy in the past, just so he can get his hands on the chairman. Over on Nitro, Ray Traylor gets a little shocked when Goldberg shoves him to the mat. The two lock up and Goldberg overpowers Traylor again. A shoulder block leads to both men staring at each other, and when Traylor invites Goldberg to hit the ropes, Billy Boy suckers him with a clothesline. It's brilliant. Traylor hits a spine buster, but Goldberg no-sells it. We see the spear, we see the jackhammer, and the commentators say that Goldberg is now 67-0. Well, Goldberg defeated Jerry Flynn at a house show on the 25th before beating him again on Thunder. Jerry Lynn with an F also got wrecked at a house show on the 27th, and then Goldberg defeated Johnny Swinger on the March 28th episode of Worldwide. Old Jerry Flynn jobbed out on Saturday and Sunday night to Goldberg too, so this win over Big Bubba actually puts Bill at 59-0. So yes, WCW are now pulling numbers out of their collective asses. Perry Saturn wants to fight Goldberg, but lucky for Goldberg, Reese and Van Hammer hold Saturn back. Kane and Paul Bearer cut a promo next on Raw. On Nitro we have Sting and Luger versus Nash and his mystery partner. Nash comes to the ring all alone, and when Sting and Luger make their entrance, they get attacked by the Macho Man Randy Savage. So Macho's Nash's partner in this tag team match. Savage hits Sting with a piledriver on the floor while Luger gets choked out by Nash in the ring. The crowd pop when Macho gets inside the ropes and he and Nash acknowledge each other. Macho tags in and he chokes Luger at the ropes. He tags Kevin back in immediately afterwards so he can go back to the outside and do more damage to the Stinger, and this battle plan continues on with Macho coming back briefly inside the ropes, only to tag out again to ensure Sting's kept away from the ring. It sounds incredibly basic, but it works well because it's different. Sting's been beaten up pretty badly before he can even get into his corner. Kevin Nash keeps the pressure on Luger while Macho goes out again to choke Sting at the guardrail. Randy then hits Sting with a steel chair, and then Kevin and Randy switch it up with Kevin going out to deal with the champ. Unfortunately though, and this is what I really didn't like about this match, Sting shrugs it all off like nothing happened and he delivers multiple inverted atomic drops to Randy. They were telling a different story in this tag match, but it all gets flushed down the toilet for the sake of a quick pop. Macho gets backdropped out of the ring and Hulk Hogan shows up. Hogan attacks Sting on the outside while Luger's applying the rack on Nash inside the ropes. The NWO Booty Man then runs in. He hits the chartbuster on Luger because Disco Inferno isn't allowed to do it anymore. He then pulls Nash over Lex and the NWO win this tag team match. They had a good thing going in this bout and it all went downhill in the closing moments. But you're getting more Wolfpack history here with Nash and Savage joining forces for the first time on Nitro. Roddy Piper shows up and he and Hogan fight on the entranceway. This'll move us right into the Piper vs Hogan main event. On Raw, Paul Bearer wonders if The Undertaker really thought it was all over after last night's WrestleMania match, because it most certainly is not. Paul says that Kane's the only man to kick out of the dead man's famous tombstone piledriver, which is incorrect by the way. For example, the Ultimate Warrior kicked out of the move years prior, but Paul Bearer says The Undertaker has had to change. Taker's now had to face his own flesh and blood one-on-one, and Kane beat Taker all around the ring last night, and Paul was proud of what Kane accomplished when he went to sleep. Paul was awoken from his slumber after having a dream though. In this dream, Paul saw a ring surrounded with fire, and inside the ring, Kane stood all alone. So Paul challenges Taker to step into this dream and compete in a match, an Inferno match. The loser will be the man who gets set on fire. We close this episode of Reliving the War with Hulk Hogan vs Roddy Piper on Nitro and the New Age Outlaws vs Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie on Raw. Hogan and Piper fight on the entranceway and the NWO Booty Man tries to help Hogan out. This doesn't work out too well though, and Piper stays in control. They make their way down to the ring where Piper allows Hogan to get in a ton of free shots, but they have no effect. Roddy then starts throwing punches at Hogan. Hulk doesn't go down, but a devastating poke to the eye sends Hollywood to the outside, and Piper ends up throwing Hulk into the NWO Booty Man. I legit busted out laughing when Tony Schiavone said, "What a war," more than once, because this is dreadful. I'm sorry. All respect to the legends of the business, but this is not where wrestling was in 1998. Piper bites Hogan's fingers back inside the ring, he lays in a ton of body shots and Hulk goes down. He gets back up and we see another devastating move, the ear clap from hell. And then the best referee in the world, Nick Patrick, doesn't notice a low blow from Hollywood. He also doesn't care when Piper hits Hogan in the balls, so yeah, rules out the window. The two fight while on their knees, they get back up and they slog through more offense. It's all chokes, back scratches, punches. Basically, this is a main event Nitro match that has no bumps, and I'm not even kidding. NWO Booty Man drags Piper out of the ring and he rams him into the ring post. Piper's still able to apply the sleeper though, so the Booty Man comes in and he hits Piper with a chartbuster. Big Nash shows up, he holds Piper up for a free shot, but Piper gets out of the way and Hogan punches Nash. Clearly, it wasn't intentional, brother. If Piper would have stayed where he was, Hogan still would have hit Nash, but yeah. The Giant shows up, the NWO bail, Nash and Hogan argue on the outside, and Tony Schiavone reminds fans that there's no episode of Thunder this week as Nitro fades to black. I don't need to explain my feelings on this main event. What you're feeling right now is how I feel. On Raw, the steel cage is set up and the tag titles are on the line. The Outlaws argued that they were not thrown in the correct dumpster at WrestleMania, and therefore they got themselves a shot at the belts tonight in the Raw main event. Terry Funk got quite the injury at WrestleMania, and Jerry Lawler calls this a big hickey from Cactus Jack, and so naturally this thing becomes a target for the Outlaws. The champs hang Billy Gunn upside down from the cage and Cactus delivers a forearm smash. Billy gets himself down and he manages to backdrop Cactus between the ropes and the cage. Billy tries to handcuff Cactus to the ropes, but Terry Funk fights him off. Road Dogg takes the handcuffs and he attacks Funk as Billy Gunn hits a famouser on Cactus. The Outlaws then use the handcuffs to secure Funk to the cage by the neck, so Funk has been neutralised. Cactus takes a double stun gun and he hits his head on the cage. Funk watches on as his partner comes back with a double DDT. Billy Gunn takes a catapult right into the steel and Funk manages to punch him while still tied to the cage. Road Dogg takes a bump into the cage courtesy of Cactus Jack. Jack then goes to climb the cage. Billy Gunn gives chase and Billy ends up getting his little smoking gun smashed on the top rope. And then it happens. X-Pac, Triple H and Chyna arrive at ringside and Pac hits Cactus on the head with a steel chair multiple times. Foley falls back into the ring and he ends up taking a spike piledriver from the Outlaws. Road Dogg performs the worm before making the cover. and the Outlaws reclaim the tag team championships. X-Pac and Triple H get in the ring and they attack Cactus and Funk. Cactus takes a pedigree from the new leader of DX, and Jerry Lawler begins to realize what's going on. The Outlaws are the newest members of Triple H's DX army. Funk's forced to watch on as Cactus gets assaulted. X-Pac performs a Bronco Buster as Billy Gunn gets up in Funk's face. Triple H cracks a chair over Foley's head, and there you have it. The new D-Generation X climb the cage to celebrate, and you kinda think, well, it takes 3 guys to replace one Shawn Michaels, but let's give this new DX a chance. It was a great way to end this episode of Raw though, especially when you compare it to Nitro. Raw wins Reliving the War this week. Nitro had no hope. The WWF show was absolutely brilliant, and it's such a memorable episode of Raw too. WCW tried to counter, but calling in Roddy Piper for another lame Hollywood Hogan main event was a bad call. Nitro felt like the same old stuff again, while this episode of Raw was very exciting, very entertaining, and a blueprint for what other episodes of Raw should aspire to be as 1998 continues on. Again, the in-ring action was maybe better on Nitro, but for pure entertainment value, the WWF was unbeatable on the Raw after WrestleMania. Raw now has 59 points on our leaderboard, Nitro's still on 54, and we've got 14 ties. In the TV ratings, Raw went up to a 3.8 and Nitro went down to a 4.2. The 83-week winning streak is coming to an end very shortly. Next week on Nitro, Goldberg takes on Van Hammer, Disco Inferno battles Booker T, and we have a mystery on our hands when someone attacks Randy Savage outside the arena. I wonder who it could be. On Raw, Owen Hart battles The Rock, the DX Army cut their first promo together, and Vince McMahon presents the new and improved Stone Cold Steve Austin. As always, thank you for watching and thank you for spending your precious free time with me. I'll see you next week for episode 128.